Some research questions need to be split up into various parts so as to properly dissect the question and be able to come to a more refined and accurate conclusion. My question definitely falls into the category of those vague and annoying questions, but rather than merely change it to make my life easier, I am determined to do what I can to answer mine. This is because my question is very important to me personally, as the answering of it, or at least the narrowing of the range of answers, may potentially lead me closer to a personal and individual goal of mine, to become a successful author. Now, a good author always knows the audience for whom he or she is writing. So I knew I had to formulate a question that took a present readership into account, but at the same time would lead to an answer that I could logically build on as foundation when hopefully writing my own book in the future. With that, my question became, what constitutes a good fiction novel of today? At first deconstruction, what does today mean? Well, it means the present moment in the year 2015. The first and most obvious thing to consider is, which fictional novels are, at the moment, becoming the most successful? Also, what does good mean, and how does this differ from successful? A survey methodology, I thought, was my best approach in answering this question. After a survey of 65 people, 57 believed both terms, in this context, to mean the exact same thing. As we take a look at the largest retailer of books in New South Wales, Dymocks, and its local partner in crime, Your Bookshop, both have compiled a list of top 101 books, which are altered every day based on how well their books sell. Currently atop this list at both acclaimed bookstores is the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George Martin. This brings us back to the difference between good and successful, with this famed and massive franchise by Martin more than certainly qualifying as successful in 2015. But does this mean that it is good? A bit of emic ethnographic research was in need here, as I decided to venture into the lands of the Song of Ice and Fire fanbase as they gathered to discuss their latest theories with regards to how the series will end. Using a survey-style methodology, I was able to gather the most recent evidence in my quest to find what people enjoy today. I asked them all the simple question, what is it that you think you like about A Song of Ice and Fire, and what keeps you coming back? I received a response familiar with what I'd been expecting. Out of 36 present, 26 responded with answers founded in the large amounts of sex and gore in the series, whilst the remaining 8 noted conventional aspects of a novel such as plot, character attachment, and a dramatic twist in happenings within the story that always keep you on your toes. With that data, I was able to conclude that successful and good are certainly not equivalent terms in my research question, and this could not be more effectively communicated than by the day that 50 Shades of Grey, a book internationally recognized as a mediocrely written book relying on its sexual and erotic motifs, eclipsed the final Harry Potter book with most sold books. Here is what Her Royal Highness J.K. Rowling had to say about that.
Deathly Hallows, the last one. But I believe, tragically, your record has been overtaken
by
recently
50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey,
Just
indeed.
think how many books I could have sold if Harry had been a bit more creative with his wand.
Example number 2. Edgar Allan Poe is universally regarded as one of the greatest writers in history, and the man unfortunately died both insane and in considerable poverty. If any more proof was needed, Kim Kardashian is one of the most recognizable human beings of 2015. I repeat, successful does not equal good. In that endeavor, I would move on to what has been conventionally laid out by the concepts of a novel, which, if a writer were to nail, would deem their book worthy in the eyes of the critics of literature. In my second method, textual analysis of historical writings. Veteran Edward Morgan Forster's 1927 writing, aspects of the novel highlight plot, character, and world as the essential ingredients of the good novel. Taking the viewpoint that consistency equals reliability, it bodes well for this methodology that greats like Orson Scott Card in his 1988 Characters and Viewpoint, and John Timmerman in his 1983 Otherworld the fantasy genre, both agree to large extents with regard to these elements, and it paves a way for a traditional approach rather than a new and innovative way. Card and Timmerman both also deduce plot, character development, and setting as essential to the good novel, and go into specifics for each of those categories as to how they've been defined over the last century and how to create new versions of each that will keep readers coming back for more. I would conclude with this research that approaching the survey method of assessing the attitudes towards books of today to deem what is successful and how I can write a good book is hugely unreliable and potentially disastrous as evidence to use. In stark contrast, my best bet would be to listen to the critics, the professionals and the scholars of the art of fiction, writing to see what they have deemed consistent ingredients in the well-acclaimed book. By far, these scholars show a much more reliable pattern in the evolution of the fiction novel, and by extension, what I must include and nail in my novel to make sure that there will be people out there in the world who may want to read it. That is all.